Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Rachel and I am knitting. Not right now, but most of the time. And I have been knitting, so I'm going to tell you all about it. Today's video is the FO diary, or the finished object diary, for my Field Day cardigan, what I'm wearing right now. This is the Field Day cardigan by Hailey Smedley, also known as Ozetta. So if you've been wanting to knit the Field Day cardigan, I hope that this video helps demystify it and makes you feel like you have, the tools that you need to be successful in tackling this pattern. So let me go over a few details about the pattern before I walk you through my process of knitting it. This is a DK weight knit cardigan. It calls for size US 7 needles, and it is written for 9 different sizes, ranging from a 38-inch finished bust to a 68-inch finished bust, and that includes 8 inches of positive ease. So you can pick a size based on the ease you want and your bust size to find a fit that works for you. With that ease taken out of the equation, it's written to fit a size 30-inch bust to a size 60-inch bust. So as far as I know, it is considered to be a size inclusive pattern. So that's excellent. Now that we've gone over some of the details, I'll just dive right in and talk to you about my process of knitting this, what I liked, what I didn't like, what obstacles I faced, and how I overcame them. All right, so here's the story. In July of 2023, I received a message from Lauren of Treehouse Knits. Lauren wanted to see if I was interested in partnering with her to promote her favorites collection, which would launch, I believe, in August of 2023. And of course, I was immediately on board. I was so excited to partner with Lauren and just jumped at the opportunity and was so grateful for the opportunity. So Lauren sent me several photos through Instagram DMs to give me a sneak peek at many of the colorways that would be returning for her favorites collection. I then was able to pick yarn for 4 different sweater projects. So I ended up picking 5 colorways, since one of the projects was a 2-color colorwork sweater, my sheep camp sweater. Among my selection was a sweater quantity of Rory, which is this colorway here that you see the Field Day knit up in. It's a beautiful variegated colorway that has greens, pinks, blush, creams, browns, purples, just, it runs the gamut. There are so many beautiful colorways in each skein. So I was very excited to have a sweater quantity of Rory coming my way. By July 27th, I had the yarn in hand, and this is kind of a guesstimate. I might have had it a few days earlier, I'm not sure, but I know that the first photo in my camera roll is on July 27th. So I had the yarn by then for sure. And I was like flabbergasted that Lauren, trusted me enough to send me nearly 30 skeins of yarn at no cost to me to help promote her collection. So that was a really exciting milestone, and one that remains special to me to this day. So I had Rory, I had a few other colorways from the favorites collection in hand, and I immediately started swatching. So on July 27th, I cast on and finished my first swatch in Rory. I swatched on US size 7 needles because that's what the pattern calls for. And I ended up having quite a bit of a different gauge than what the pattern calls for. The pattern calls for 22 stitches over 32 rows, being 4 inches, and I had 18.5 stitches over 4 inches, which is quite different than 22. So I knew that I needed to swatch again, so immediately I went down a needle size and I swatched again. So here's my swatch on size 6 needles, and my gauge did change. I got to 20 stitches over 4 inches, so I was headed in the correct direction, but I still did not quite meet gauge. So what could I do but swatch thrice? Yes, I made a third swatch, this time on US 5 needles, and I ended up getting 21.5 stitches over 4 inches, and I just called that good. The pattern called for 22 stitches over 4 inches, and 21.5 was going to be good enough for me. So I moved forward with casting Rory on in a size 5 needle. At the time, I was making size 6, which, let me check the bust measurement. So size 6, as written in the pattern, should have a 58-inch bust. I have anywhere from a 50 to 52-inch bust, so that would be perfect for the recommended ease. So after deciding to move forward with knitting the size 6, I cast on August 2nd, and by August 6th, I was ready to start my second skein. So it was going pretty quickly. I was having a really good time. Keep in mind, this is not the only project that I was working on at the time. I was also working on my sheep camp, also in Treehouse Knits gifted yarn. So there's a lot going on. I'm juggling a few different projects, but on August 6th, I join in the new skein, and a few inches later, I realized that there is a noticeable line of demarcation between my first skein and my second skein. Now, I know about alternating skeins. I know the benefit of it. I know the arguments for it. I also know that it's annoying to do. Even though I prefer the end result of my knits not to have color pooling, it's still, I still somehow think I'll just try and see. Maybe it won't color pool. And then when it inevitably does, I frog and I begin alternating skeins. But I always give it a try, just in case. This ends up taking more time, causing more heartache, but I keep doing it anyway. Whatever. Yeah, so anyway, on August 6th, I noticed this visible line of demarcation between the two skeins. And so I figured, you know, that is annoying. That's not what I want, but maybe it just looks so pronounced now because I only have like less than 10 inches of knitting to see, so it's very apparent. It's the first thing my eye is going to notice, but if I keep knitting and I make a full garment, this will probably kind of, you know, come out in the wash. It's not going to be noticeable because there will be a whole garment of eye-catching variegation. This is just catching my eye now because there's not a lot of fabric to look at. So I kept knitting. Okay, I kept going. I brought it to Oregon with me when I went back in August, and I worked on it there. But then it was set aside, and I didn't work on it for a little while. Picked it back up when I had come back from the Irish knitting tour. So we're like in the late fall, early winter. I'm knitting on the cardigan. I'm getting really, really far. I finished both the front panels, the back panel. I joined the body, I'm knitting down on the body, and I'm pretty far on the body when I make a heinous discovery, which is that when I came back from the Irish knitting tour, I put all of the needles that I traveled with back in my Chiagu red lace needle case. What I didn't realize that I did as well during that, you know, reset and unpacking endeavor was that I mismatched two pairs of needles. Basically, I put one size 4 needle tip with one size 5 needle tip, and I thought they were a pair. And I took the other size 4 and the other size 5, and I put them back on my Chiagu cables, twisted them back on, and began knitting again. So when it was set aside, it was on hold. There were no needle tips. The stitches were secured by Chiagu cable cord locks. What are those called? End stoppers. The ends were secured by end stoppers. So I took the end stoppers on and I put what I thought were the correct needle tip sizes back on the cords and continued knitting. When in reality, what I had done was I had put one size 4 on my cord and one size 5 on my cord. Now, a size 4, let me see if I have an example to show you. Yep, so a size 4, and I need to be really careful that I don't just do that again. In my hand, I have one size 4 and one size 5. You may be able to tell which is which. The bottom is the size 4 and the top is the size 5. So the size 4 has a smaller circumference than the size 5, and what that does is that makes it so your stitches are going to be different based on which needle tip is forming them. So unfortunately, I did not have the smaller needle, the US size 4, as the left needle, the right needle. I don't remember why. One of the needles, it wouldn't have mattered if it had been the wrong size, but that's not how it was. I don't remember. But anyway, it was a disaster. And once I realized that those tips were not the same, and I looked at the fabric that I had been creating, at that point, all I could see was rowing out. If you're not familiar, rowing out is basically a situation where your tension across different rows is so varied that some rows really pop out and just like look bigger, and other rows are much tighter and kind of sink into the fabric. So it makes your fabric a little bit cattywampus, and that's not what I wanted for my finished object. Now, you may be thinking, Rachel, it doesn't matter if you have one needle tip that is one size down. It's not going to make that much of a difference. Guess what? You are the voice of reason, maybe. Congratulations. That doesn't change the fact that now it was in my brain like an insidious little bug crawling around, whispering to me, your rowing out is so apparent. That's all you will ever be able to see. Okay, so that was just the way it was. So I agonized over it for a little bit before I eventually found the strength and the courage to frog my progress back. Now, I took this opportunity to say, maybe I don't need to start from the beginning. Maybe I take this opportunity to just frog the body where I know that I was using 2 different needle sizes, to frog the front panels where I know I was using 2 different needle sizes, and then also frog the back panel up until the point where that line of demarcation was. So I figured I could just frog up until that point and then begin to alternate skeins to blend out that line of demarcation, and then I would still have the knitting I had done for this portion of the sweater and basically the back short rows. Well, friends, when I got into the heat of frogging, I couldn't stop. And I tried to stop around the line of demarcation so I could pick my stitches back up, and then it just ended up being a whole disaster. And I was so defeated, I was so frustrated, I was so overwhelmed that I just frogged the entire thing. Yes, I was basically nearly done with the body, and I said, we're frogging this. So it was frogged. I want to say that was in November, and I was so frustrated with myself because I had gotten so far on this pattern, and also this, was promotional material yarn, so I wanted to make sure it didn't just languish in my pile of, heartbreaks. If you're anything like me, you may be familiar with the sensation of a project giving you so much grief that you can't even look at it. You don't want to think about it. It just needs to go away until you nurse your wounds and you're ready to revisit it. That's what this project felt like for me. I was like so defeated and so upset about it. But I told myself, okay, I don't need to stress over this being just hidden away forever, because I'm deciding, I'm telling myself now, that's not going to be what happens. I will revisit this project. And I determined that in early 2024 is when that would happen. So I was giving myself the room to grieve and the room to rally and the permission to take a good chunk of time, but also having the structure to say, this is when it will be revisited. So that's what happened with my first attempt at the field day. Now let's talk about my second attempt, which is what I'm wearing now. I'm really, really proud of this. It flew off my needles. Not really, but it feels like it. I cast this on March 30th. And I cast it off on April 26th, and by April 28th, it was blocked, the ends woven in, and the buttons sewn on. So less than a month from skein to garment, that's a win. I'm counting that a win. Yeah, let me tell you about the obstacles I faced in my second attempt. Basically none. It was smooth sailing. I don't know why that is, but I have some suspicions. I have kind of like a motley crew of reasons why I think that is. Number one, I basically had already knit this pattern to completion once before. Obviously not. I never finished the first attempt, but I had a trial run that I failed at, but made me more equipped to succeed at my second attempt. So I think that's one reason. So I had familiarity with the pattern, and also I was really motivated to finish it. It was a really, really fun knit. This was true the first time as well. Knitting with this yarn, the Dove DK from Treehouse Knits, is sublime. It's so soft. It's a 3-ply, I don't have any in skein form nearby, but it's this beautiful, squishy, 3-ply, DK weight, 100% superwash merino wool. It's just a dream. And the variegation of this colorway, Rory, made it so exciting. I felt like it was so enriching. I've used this analogy before when describing my experience knitting the ranunculus, but knitting with this Rory colorway kind of felt like I was a dog. Okay, just bear with me. Felt like I was a dog eating treats out of those sensory treat bowls with like all the different textures and like the hidden compartments. So the dog is like having the time of their lives, like finding all the treats in the nooks and crannies. And it's just like fun. Okay, that's what I felt like. I felt like a dog eating treats out of a special bowl, knitting this yarn. Because one stitch will be green, the next will be cream, the next will be blush, the next will be purple, then back to green, then back to purple. And it's just like unpredictable and fun. And the colors are just gorgeous. So, yeah. I think those are some of the reasons why it flew off my needles. And then also, I wanted to have this is like maybe silly. I wanted to have this to wear on May 12th, Sunday, May 12th. That's when the Stars Hollow collection from Treehouse Knits is available for pre-order. So Rory is coming back. You can get your hands on Rory if you've seen this knit up and you've always wanted some yourself. You can grab it on Sunday, May 12th. So those reasons, like I was determined to finish this. I did not want to get to that plateau that so often I hit in knitting projects where the yoke is really fun or the raglan increases are really fun, but then I get to a part that's kind of monotonous and kind of boring, and I set it aside in favor of either casting on a more exciting project or working on a more exciting whip I have. I was not going to let that happen to my Rory cardigan, and I'm so glad that I persevered and I did it. Okay, wait, now that I think about it, there is one obstacle that I faced, which has to do with my knitting the sleeves. I tried helical knitting for the first time when knitting this garment. I'm not sure if you can do helical knitting when you're knitting flat, but you certainly can when you're knitting in the round. And I've repeatedly been told, try helical knitting. It will solve your color pooling problems. Guess what? That may be true, but it's going to create a whole other set of problems for you, particularly if you're doing helical knitting on something with shaping. So for me, doing helical knitting on the sleeves, which does have shaping, it has decreases, this was a nightmare. I don't know if I'll be more equipped to tackle this in the future, because this was my first time trying helical knitting. But oh my gosh, what a nightmare it was. When the helical switch, where you switch yarns that you're working with, coincides with the beginning of round that also coincides with your decrease round, it just totally, like, it is a mess. So if I ever try helical knitting again, it will be on something that does not have shaping, like for instance the body of a sweater after sleeve separation. I might consider helical knitting, but not for the yoke or for raglan increases. Okay, so we did find an obstacle that I overcame. Also, there is a mistake on this sleeve where the decreases do not stay in alignment. They kind of jog. I'm blaming helical knitting. Is it helical knitting's fault? I don't know, but I'm choosing that it's going to be my scapegoat for why my decreases are not, you know, following a clear path as they should on this sleeve. You know, we're just gonna get over it and move on. Okay, so yeah, so for the most part, no obstacles knitting this pattern, but for helical knitting, which is not because of the pattern writing. It's no one's fault except whoever made helical knitting be such a pain in the butt. Okay, so this is not reflective of the pattern or how clearly it's written or anything like that. It's just helical knitting's fault, pretty much. Okay, so let's talk about the modifications I did on my pattern. The first modification you already know about, which is I used US size 5 instead of US size 7. Now, I also used the metrics from this swatch I made in July of 2023 to inform my decision of what size to knit in March and April of 2024. I don't think that was the best idea. I don't think so. So my swatch on US size 5 had me at 21.5 stitches over 4 inches. Okay, great. Close enough to the pattern gauge of 22 stitches over 4 inches. Well, guess what? My gauge of this finished item is 20 stitches over 4 inches. And I've said this before, like some of you will be hearing those numbers and be like, I'm not gonna put that into my brain and try and picture what you're talking about. And others of you will be like, boop, 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 boop. I know exactly what you mean, Rachel. Basically, it means that my garment is bigger than I anticipated it being. With my gauge on the swatch of US size 5 needles that I made in July of 2023, this led me to believe that this finished object, with the size I picked to make, I made the size extra large, by the way. Did I say that or not already? I don't know. I made the size extra large, or the 5th size in if you prefer that terminology. Yeah, so the measurements for that led me to believe that I would have a 54-inch bust on the finished garment. I don't. I have a 58-inch bust on the finished garment, which is fine. That's basically exactly how the pattern is designed to be worn, with that 8 inches of positive ease. But I just wanted less ease on my cardigan because I've learned that I prefer less ease, even veering into negative ease. Not for cardigans because I don't like the button bunching look, but whatever. This has more ease than I anticipated. It's a larger garment than I initially planned for. This is fine, and I plan to make many more of these, you know, into eternity, so I'll just make my next one a size down and it will be fine. There's no harm done, but it does mean my garment is larger than I thought it was going to be. So I think that's a combination of using an old swatch, and also I'm learning about myself that I'm swatching tighter than I'm actually knitting, because I've had that happen with a few other garments. So yeah, that's just a thing that I'm dealing with. But There's my first modification, is that I knit on US size 5 needles, and I knit a few sizes down based on my like gauge measurement, which ended up being wrong anyway. And yeah. Okay, and then other mods that I did not join the front panels with the back panel when the pattern says to do so. I knit an additional 4 rows on each of the panels. And what that does is it makes the armhole deeper. I did that because I thought that I needed a deeper armhole, but I don't. I didn't need to do that. So when I make this in the future, I probably won't add that extra armhole depth. Another modification I did is that I added a 5th buttonhole. So I'll stand up and show you what that looks like. Yeah, I'm in exercise shorts, but guess what? I'm not exercising today. I'm just hanging around. But yeah, this is what it looks like. The pattern is written for 4 buttonholes, so it would end around here. The ribbing would start around here, but I wanted a bit of a longer cardigan, so I added an extra buttonhole. Now, as luck would have it, one day I was wearing this around campus to work, and I had my buttons mismatched. So yes, I walked around looking like this for a full day before I noticed. But the good thing about that is I kind of have an idea of what this would look like if I had omitted that 5th buttonhole, and I think that's super cute too. So maybe in a future iteration of my knitting the field day, I'll try the 4 buttonhole route and see how I like it. I think that it would be really cute based on the incorrect button pairing that I accidentally did while wearing this cardigan in real life. Other mods that I did, when I picked up stitches for the sleeve, I had a rate of picking up 2 stitches for every 3 rows. That got me 104 stitches instead of the 102 stitches noted for my size in the pattern. So I just added an extra decrease after my pickup row. And yeah, what else? I did 2 extra sets of decreases on the sleeves, so I ended with 50 stitches instead of 54. That's written in the pattern. I think that's pretty much all the pertinent information. The last thing that maybe would be helpful for you to know is how in the world this pattern is structured. I know that some people, like when they start to knit the field day, they feel like this does not make any sense whatsoever. How is this going to become a sweater? Because the construction is kind of different. Basically, the way that you knit the sweater. I just tried to take this off and show you how it would be knit up, but I really don't think it's going to translate because of the variegation of the yarn, and it's hard to kind of see between the panels. But basically, you cast on at the top of the back, so your back neck, and you knit in short rows to create almost a triangle shape. Then you pick up the stitches and knit the front panels, all while you're doing the button band. And then you knit down the front panels to the required length. You return to the back panel, knit it down the required length. You join them, you knit down the body, you do the sleeves. Okay, maybe that was like more harmful than helpful. I don't know if that was really confusing. But yeah, the construction is a little bit, I don't know. If you're not used to knitting drop shoulder cardigans with this type of shoulder seam, then this will probably be really outlandish to you when you start to knit it. But I promise, if you just trust the process, Ozetta will walk you right through it. And I didn't really have any instances in the pattern where I was like, wait, this is insurmountable. So really just go slow and steady. There are video tutorials linked in the pattern, and I think that you'll really love the finished result. As I mentioned, I have plans to knit more of these. I have a sweater quantity of Carpet from Cesium Yarn, which is a beautiful green that is based on the carpet of my family cabin. I'm definitely going to knit that up into a field day. I have a sweater quantity of Over the Sky to Sea from Long Dog Yarn coming in DK weight that I think would be so pretty as a field day cardigan. So I do have plans to knit this again. It's a really rewarding knit and it's a wardrobe staple. So I think that this would be great in a neutral color, like a nice black or cream to just throw on with any outfit that you need. It's just a really great pattern and it can really work for your wardrobe in a lot of different fun and great ways. So I hope that this was helpful. If you do choose to knit the field day, I hope that you're less scared or, I don't know, more excited. Yeah, I hope that your good feelings and feelings of excitement outweigh any questions of whether or not you can or should knit this pattern. I highly recommend it, and I'm looking forward to casting on another. All right, that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you don't already, and hit that notification bell to be notified of my next upload. Last but not least, head over to Instagram and follow me at Rachel's Knitting if you don't already. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.